Hello and welcome to That Fabric Guy. Today we're going to look at the optimal refresh of a Materialized Lake View or MLV, because oftentimes they will do a full refresh, but if you are careful on the configuration of your underlying tables and of your MLV itself, you can do incremental refreshes, and that saves you a lot of time, it saves you a lot of money, and today I will be showing you how to do that. So let's dive right into my laptop. Alright, so a quick reminder on what is a Materialized Lake View. I've created another video on that as well. You can see that by searching for MLV or Materialized Lake View on my channel. But basically what it is a view definition that you create in your Fabric Lakehouse. And you do that by saying create Materialized Lake View, then give it a name, and then give it a PySpark definition. And now what this does is basically it creates a delta table, but it acts as a view. You can easily update the view without writing any PySpark code to update the data in your view. Okay, so let's start working with our data set. And let's start creating the base data that we need. So for today I've created a very simple data set that contains the current date time and it contains a value. And it will simply update a table that is called dbo.mlv example. Now let's see whether that first record insert worked. And by the way, I'm writing this data frame that I'm creating every time to the dbo.mlv example table. And we're doing the append mode here. So every record that I insert here will be added to the table, not overwritten. And also there's no deletes and no updates. That's very important, because if you do deletes or updates in your underlying tables, incremental refresh on your MLV will not work. Okay, now we see that we have this one value in here. Let's see, test this. We run this again. Should be fairly quick. And as you can see, we easily were able to create a table that logs data. Now, let's create our Materialized Lake View. We do that by simply running the SQL statement. We say create Materialized Lake View, give it a name, as select our fields from our table. And now when the view is created, it will output some metrics. And in these metrics, we can see that the refresh policy is set to full refresh. We will change that later. Let's see what happens if we select from the MLV. We see that there's 2 rows in here. Now let's go back and add another row to the table. Row number 3, there we go. And let's select again from our view. Now this didn't do anything because we did not refresh the view. So let's refresh the view by executing refresh Materialized Lake View in SparkSQL. There we go. Here we see the output of the refresh operation. You see that there's 3 rows in total that were processed and we did a full refresh. And this is a bit disappointing because I have been appending just one record. So why couldn't the Materialized Lake View just append that one record into the view as well? That has to do with the way that the underlying table is configured. So let's verify that indeed we have these 3 rows in the view. Okay, that's cool. Let's find the table properties for the MLV example. We are specifically looking for a table property called delta enable change data feed. And this is not enabled in our table at the moment, but luckily we can easily enable this. And what this property does, it is adding a change data feed to our delta table. And that delta table will then be able to tell other applications what has changed. And especially in the case of Materialized Lake Views and append-only operations, that means that the Materialized Lake View knows that it can only, or it should only take the data that was newly appended. Okay, now we've set this table properties here, so let's verify that that indeed happened by running the command show table properties. And we can now see that indeed we have the delta enable change data feed set to true. This is really cool. Okay, so let's go to our thing here and say, let's add row number 4. When we then select data from the view, no, when we select data from the view, nothing will happen. No, there's still 3 rows in here. We will then refresh the view. That was successful. And now you can see that we indeed have run an incremental process. So when I now select from the view, we see all of the tables, all of the records that we have just created. So the latest one is row number 4. That's the one that we just inserted into the table, or that we appended to the table. And then when we look at the output of our refresh command, we will see that indeed this view was refreshed by a refresh policy called incremental refresh, and the total number of rows processed is 1. So even though we had 4 records here, we only processed 1 record in our table. So this is really cool. Now to show you what happens when we start deleting data from the table, let's do that. Let's say SQL delete from dbo.mlv example. I think that's the name. Yep, it is. Where value equals, that's this. Now one record is deleted, and let's append row number 5. And then in total we should have 4 rows in our MLV, right? Because we had 4, we deleted 1, we added 1, so that should now have 4. Okay, let's refresh our Materialized Lake View and then select from it. And now we should see a full load happening on the Materialized Lake View. There we are. Refresh policy is now set to full refresh, and the total rows processed is 4. So all of the rows that are there are now processed. Now we don't need to do anything here. We can now simply say blah blah blah. Run that. Run the refresh command. Run the select command. And now we can see that we are back to incremental refresh without doing anything. Because of the change data feed is enabled, we can simply do incremental refresh when that is possible, when we've done append only operations. And when there's non-append operations such as deletes or updates, it will fall back for that next refresh into a full load. And as you can see here, indeed our MLV has been processed correctly, even though only 1 record was processed. So that's it on optimal refresh for Materialized Lake Views. I realized this was a very short video, but this is a very small and easy to understand concept as well. So if you are working with Materialized Lake Views, let me know in the comments what you see and if you get a lot of incremental refresh on your MLVs. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you at the next video that should be popping up somewhere around here. See you next week. Ciao, ciao.